Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is Lesson 9. The uses of midnight versus in the middle of the night. Yeah, sometimes I'm surprised at how many students have issues, have problems with this, especially the Chinese students. Yeah, one that I might even try to point out right away. The most common mistake Chinese students make with these terms is by saying in midnight. This is always wrong. You can never say in midnight. All right, so let's cover it. Let's look at it, and we'll come back to that point. When we say midnight, what is midnight? Midnight is 12 a.m., 12 o'clock at night. Yeah, and do remember it is the a.m. Sometimes people get confused between a.m. and p.m. In the afternoon, during the day, when it hits 12 o'clock, that's actually p.m. So at night, at 11:59 p.m., 1 minute later, that turns to a.m. So midnight is 12 a.m. And of course we can also say at midnight to mean 12 a.m. There are a number of ways that we can use midnight too. Like we can also say around midnight, which means a little before or after midnight. This term around midnight suggests a time period around 11:45 p.m. to 12:15 a.m. more or less. You can play with this, of course. In certain situations, maybe somebody might actually mean 11:30 to 12:30, but I wouldn't go too far in either direction. If we say around midnight, we do mean usually close to midnight, close to 12 o'clock at night. Okay, and again, just to stress the importance, this is probably the biggest thing that I want to be known in this particular video, is for students never to say in midnight. So let's repeat it. The most common mistake Chinese students make with these terms is by saying in midnight. This is always wrong. You can never say in midnight. I don't know, maybe sometimes Chinese students confuse the term, like mix up between, at midnight and in the middle of the night. Maybe they take the in from in the middle of the night and put it with midnight to say in midnight. I'm not 100% sure why they always do that, but that's one that I've corrected many times. Again, usually with my students, it's usually only at the beginning. Once I correct them, they usually get it down. All right, let's go directly to the examples. All right, remember the EG stands for example. The fairy godmother told Cinderella to leave the ball by midnight. Remember, of course, the fairy tale, with Cinderella. By midnight, this is another way we could say it. By midnight actually means like before midnight. So you had to finish something before that time. Because if you remember the fairy tale, at exactly midnight, at the strike of 12, as the clock struck 12, exactly at midnight, all her magic would reverse, and Cinderella had to run away before she would be embarrassed. All right, so the fairy godmother told Cinderella to leave the ball by midnight because at midnight, meaning at exactly 12 o'clock, her magic spell would reverse. It would go back around. All right, so we got a couple of midnights there. We got by midnight, and again, we get to use at midnight. All right, another common term that we could use that's actually a little close to in the middle of the night is after midnight, although it's very open. What does that mean? Well, it could mean like 12:30, 1, 2, yeah, around that time probably. So here, this is a sentence that maybe parents might say to children to make sure that they don't stay up too late at night. They might say, after midnight, it's lights out, meaning you got to go to bed. So I don't want to see the lights in your room after 12 o'clock. Don't play any video games at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. So after midnight, it's lights out. So you say after midnight, so after that 12 a.m. time period. Okay, let's go on. The term in the middle of the night is the most common way to refer to the hours after midnight. Yeah, this is definitely the most common one that I hear. All right, starting from around midnight to about 5 a.m. before sunrise. Yeah, again, you always can't put an exact time on it. It probably mostly refers to around 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. But it could be 5 a.m., but once you see the crack of dawn, once the light starts to rise, It's not in the middle of the night anymore. Now it's getting into the early morning hours. Okay, so here's an example. I cannot believe she called just to say hi in the middle of the night. Alright, so that's an example. I cannot believe she called just to say hi in the middle of the night. Yeah, maybe somebody might be a little annoyed by that. Maybe they think if you call in the middle of the night, well, it better be an emergency. Okay. Some other ways to refer to this time period are in the wee hours of the morning, in the early morning hours, and in the dead of the night. They're not as common as in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night is by far the most common. But sometimes it's used for different purposes or to have a different feel in the sentence. So let me give you some examples. I received an overseas phone call in the wee hours of the night. I think we tend to use wee hours in a way to be a little funny, so that's why I wrote humorous here. I don't know if it's every time it's to be funny, but just the word "we" itself sounds kind of funny. It sounds kind of funny, sounds kind of cute. It could also remind you of the little kid's fairy tale. You know, this little piggy went to the market, this little piggy stayed home, this little piggy had roast beef, this little piggy had none. This little piggy went wee 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 all the way home. Wee wee can also sometimes refer to pee pee too. So it sounds kind of funny, sounds kind of cute. So I think we tend to use it to have this feeling when we say it. Sometimes. She doesn't arrive home from work until the early morning hours. I think this is kind of neutral. It's just another way to refer to it. Again, here the early morning hours could refer to 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Alright, in the dead of the night. In the dead of the night, I heard noises outside my bedroom window. It does sound a little scary. We say in the dead of the night, we say in the dead of the winter. It also means in the middle of. So in the dead of also refers to in the middle of. It's another way to say it. And like I said, it does sound a little scary. So we might use it in a sentence that kind of sounds scary. In the dead of the night, you know, the dead silence. Maybe you don't hear any other noise. So that's the way that's kind of the feel of it. So in the dead of the night, I heard noises outside my bedroom window. All right, again, just to quickly review. Definitely do not use in midnight. So if you're a Chinese student, that's the one you absolutely want to avoid. It's always wrong. Native speakers will immediately know that's not correct. In the middle of the night is the most common use. Alright, so those are probably the 2 points we want to stress. And it's good to remember all the other ways that we could refer to use midnight. You could play with midnight. Just like I said, you could say around midnight, after midnight, at midnight. So we can use midnight in a number of ways. Okay, I hope that clarifies it all. Thank you very much.